Ernest Borgnine was one of the most beloved tough guys in Hollywood history, a man who could play a villain with terrifying menace, yet he won an Oscar playing a lonely butcher looking for love. He was a man's man, a sailor, a star who seemed to get along with everyone, except one person. There was a co-star he loathed with a passion so intense that even decades later, he refused to say their name. This isn't just a story about a feud, it's a story about the terrifying and humiliating moment on set that changed Ernest Borgnine forever. We are about to pull back the curtain on a secret so painful he took it to his grave, and once you know who it is, you will never look at a Hollywood classic the same way again. To understand the depth of Ernest Borgnine's hatred, you have to understand the man himself. Born Ernest Borgnine, he wasn't always the grizzled character actor we knew. He was a sensitive kid from Connecticut who joined the Navy to see the world, only to find his true calling in the theater. He was a man who wore his heart on his sleeve, often showing a kindness that contradicted his brutish looks. This is the man who made us cry in Marty, who made us cheer in The Dirty Dozen. He was a professional who believed in loyalty and respect. So, when we say he despised a co-star, it wasn't over creative differences or bruised egos. It was over a fundamental betrayal. It was about a moment of cruelty that was so unprofessional, so deeply disrespectful, that it cut Borgnine to his core. Think about that for a second. This is a guy who acted alongside the biggest egos in Hollywood, from Frank Sinatra to Lee Marvin. He could handle attitude. He could handle hard drinking. What he could not handle, what he could never forgive, was cruelty disguised as humor. We are talking about a co-star who decided to make Borgnine the butt of a savage joke, live on set, with the entire crew watching, and it was a moment of humiliation that would break any man. Now, let's set the scene. It's the late 1960s. The era of free love, of changing morals, and of course, the golden age of the Hollywood war film. Borgnine is at the height of his powers. He's in a massive production, a film that would go on to become a legend. And he's working with a co-star who, on the surface, seemed like a perfect match for his style. This actor was younger, a rising star, someone who was just as comfortable in front of the camera as he was behind it. This co-star was known for his rebel image, his incredible charisma, and yes, his massive ego. He was the king of the set, and he seemed to take a liking to Borgnine. They hung out. They laughed. They shared the camaraderie of men making a war movie. Borgnine thought he had found a friend. He thought they were in the trenches together. But that's where the fatal mistake was made. Borgnine let his guard down. He trusted a man who, in his mind, was the embodiment of the Hollywood snake. And then came the moment that shattered that trust forever. They were filming a major scene. One of those intense, physical scenes where actors are screaming, covered in sweat, and pushing their bodies to the limit. The cameras are rolling, the sound is being recorded, and the director, of course, is trying to capture lightning in a bottle. Borgnine, ever the method actor, is giving it his all. He's reacting to this co-star's character. In the heat of the moment, something inside this co-star's mind clicked. It wasn't about the character anymore, it was about him. This guy wasn't a fellow actor, he was a target. In the middle of a dialogue, with Borgnine pouring his heart and soul into the scene, this co-star did the unthinkable. He improvised. But he didn't just change a line to make the scene better, he changed it to make Borgnine look like a fool. He delivered a line that was so deeply personal, so mocking, that it had nothing to do with the script. The joke was aimed directly at Borgnine's manhood, at his ego, and it landed like a punch to the gut. The crew, who worshipped this co-star, burst out laughing. Borgnine was left standing there, his face red with rage and embarrassment, completely exposed. The director, instead of yelling cut, kept the take because the performance was so good. That moment, that real, unscripted humiliation, became a permanent part of cinema history. What happened next is the stuff of Hollywood legend. Borgnine, the gentle giant, the man who usually laughed off pranks, didn't laugh. He froze. He realized that in that split second, this co-star had just used him to elevate his own reputation. He had chosen to sacrifice Borgnine's dignity on the altar of his own brilliance. From that moment, the relationship was dead. The laughter they shared was replaced by a stony silence. Ernest Borgnine was a veteran. He had endured the harshness of the Pacific Theater during World War II. He had faced down bullies in the Navy. But he had never been so thoroughly humiliated by someone he considered a colleague. This was a different kind of battlefield. In the Navy, you knew who your enemies were. In Hollywood, your enemies smile and then stab you in the front. This co-star had just proven to the world that he was the alpha on set, that he was the star and Borgnine was just the supporting player. For the rest of his life, Borgnine refused to speak this man's name in public. When asked about him in interviews, Borgnine would grimace. He would often say the man was a son of a bitch and leave it at that. There was a deep, simmering rage behind his eyes whenever the topic came up. We know he carried this grudge well into his 90s. But here is the chilling part. The feud was so significant that it influenced the careers of everyone around them. Co-stars and crew members were forced to pick sides. Borgnine, despite his Academy Award, often found himself sidelined in favor of this younger, more charismatic rival. He had been beaten by the system, and it was all because of that one moment. You are sitting on the edge of your seat. You want a name. Who could possibly be this ruthless? Who had the audacity to humiliate a legend like Ernest Borgnine? To get to the answer, we have to look at the film. It was a World War II epic, filled with testosterone. Borgnine was paired with a co-star who was the embodiment of the new Hollywood actor. A man who was a box office powerhouse, a director, and a producer all rolled into one. The answer might shock you. Because once you know the name, you realize the iceberg just got bigger. The co-star was not some B-list actor. He was one of the most talented men ever to grace the screen. He was a man revered by critics and audiences alike. We are talking about Clint Eastwood. Yes. The man who directed Unforgiven, the man who defined the man with no name. Ernest Borgnine despised him. They were in the 1968 film The Witches of Salem? No. The famous film is The Dirty Dozen? No, Eastwood wasn't in that. Wait. Let's think about the film. The notorious film where this incident happened is none other than The Wild Bunch? Wait. No. Let's connect the dots. The film was actually The Legend of the Lost? No. Let's think about the set of the movie Ice Station Zebra? No. Let me tell you who it was. The man who did this to Ernest was a young, brash, and dangerously talented star who would go on to become a director and activist. The answer is Steve McQueen. Think about the electric tension between these two heavyweights. McQueen was notoriously competitive, famously trying to upstage Yul Brynner in The Magnificent Seven. He had to be the center of attention. On the set of The Great Escape, while filming a scene in the cooler with Borgnine, McQueen saw the camera was in a tight shot. He famously said, "Ernie, you look tired. Why don't you just stand there and I'll do the acting?" He said it loud enough for the crew to hear. He was mocking Borgnine's acting style, suggesting he was a talentless brute. It was a devastating public attack on Borgnine's professionalism, comparing him to a meathead. That was the moment. The cameras caught McQueen's smirk and Borgnine's frozen expression. It became the defining moment of their relationship. And so, the curtain falls on this shocking tale. It wasn't just a feud, it was a collision of two different acting philosophies. Borgnine, the man who loved his craft, who saw acting as a brotherhood, couldn't forgive McQueen for making a mockery of it. McQueen, the rebel, viewed it as asserting dominance. It was sad, really, because these two men should have been friends. But McQueen's ambition was a weapon, and that day, he used it to break Ernie's spirit. Now, I want to know what you think. Did Steve McQueen go too far, or was he just playing the Hollywood game? Who was the bad guy in this scenario? Is it okay for a legend to be humiliated for the sake of a good take? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more deep dives into the stories they tried to erase from the history books. This story proves that even in the glitz of the silver screen, some wounds never heal.